entrepreneurship and the apparel industry. Actually, my two favorite topics. I welcome you, and I think we'll have a good time together in this next hour talking about how you turn your passion into profit. I'm Ronnie Miller-Stard. I am the chair for Apparel Industry Management and for the advanced program in menswear. I want to set the stage for a few minutes for tonight's event. You'll be meeting three alums from the Apparel Industry Management program, all entrepreneurs in the apparel industry, and they're going to tell us their story. We'll meet each one of them individually and then later as a panel to answer my questions and any questions that you have. Please type them in using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. All apparel industry brands are started by entrepreneurs. That's how everything starts. Think about Levi Strauss. He started a business based on the fact that sailors had nobody to sew for them when they came ashore. The gold miners had nobody to make their pants. So that's how he developed his passion, his business, that's a conglomerate today. So it starts all small, and we move from there. Even the largest companies are started small, maybe accumulated other people's small businesses that they purchased, or they started new divisions, but everything happens in the apparel industry from the entrepreneur. And California, as an example, is truly the land of entrepreneur. We have been known as that for, at least 50 years, okay? We have, if you take a look at the apparel industry figures, it's exciting. In the world, in the global forefront, we are 1.7 trillion in sales. I can't even think how many zeros that is when you try to write it out. That is a lot of money being spent on what we put on our bodies. In the U.S., if you just take the U.S. alone, we're $316 billion in sales. $86 billion is menswear, $27 billion is children's, and $200 billion is women's. But so you know, of the three, just so you know, the 50% that the largest growth is in the menswear business. For example, if 5 years ago it was $59 billion, it is now $86 billion. So men have discovered fashion in a great way. The hot areas right now for the industry are, of course, athleisure. COVID taught us that. We also have luxe sportswear. We're getting into sports apparel like from Nike. And everything is really happening through e-commerce. E-commerce, we built our business by $30 billion more in the past 3 years. That's how important e-commerce became this year. The growth for the apparel industry is projected to be 9% for the next 5 years yearly. So that's going to compound to where it takes that 1.7 trillion it is now to just under 4 trillion in 2025. So there's a lot of business to be had out there for any inspiring entrepreneur. A lot of the people that have been laid off or furloughed during the COVID or have decided that maybe they want a different career path, this may be the answer to your dreams, is to move into actually becoming an entrepreneur in the apparel industry arena. If you look at what's happened over the past year with COVID, we've become what we refer to as data-driven, looking at the analytics, finding out what's making the business happen. The e-commerce is the most important part, as we know, during the COVID year. Again, we're starting to see more sales happen in retail stores, but it's still e-commerce that's driving the business. We've also become a very big advocate for sustainability. Whether we can find organic cotton or whether we are taking polyester and stripping out all the impurities in it and reweaving it into new fabric again. It used to be that we were what we called dirt to shirt. But in today's circular market, we're dirt to shirt to dirt to shirt. We're using the same fabrics when we can over and over again to save on waste. We are expanding our markets outside the U.S. One of the things happening is that not only do we have increasing e-commerce business, but There's an increase in online across all markets, and it's particularly in the smartphone user markets. We also have an emerging middle class worldwide. And what's going to happen is that they figure that by, what they say, that globally we would increase by 19% in sales this year. And then the overall increase for the following 5 years is hovering around the 9%. One of the problems that we have to look at is that not everything is successful, as we know. 20% of all new business fail in the first year. Unfortunately, of all the businesses that start by year 10, only 30% are left. And it's not that you can't do it, it's that people don't realize you have to learn how to be an entrepreneur. If you're very creative, that's wonderful, but you don't know how to sustain the business side of it and keep it profitable. If you know the business side but haven't awakened your passion, you can't create products that are wanted by the industry. So this is what we're trying to do, is bring the two together. It is linked by technology in today's marketplace. So rather than me going on, let's get started and let's meet our panelists. Our first is Joanna Lee. She is a graduate from 2020 from FIDM, and we're going to start with her and go through what she has been doing and looking at some of her ideas on what has occurred. Since you are so new to the entrepreneurial spirit, when did you start your business? When did you launch your website?
I launched January 25th, so this is like my 4th month going into it. So it's really new. It's still a baby, but yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm Joanna Lee, and I just graduated in June 2020 with the AA degree in Apparel Management.
So what did you find that, what was the direction you chose and why? For your product?
Sorry? For my products?
What were the areas that you chose and why?
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry, my Wi-Fi is kind of cutting off.
Okay, I'm so sorry. What products do you produce and why?
Oh, okay. I don't produce any of these clothings. I do buy wholesale and I sell retail. I wish I produced my own clothing, and in the future I really want to, but I'm not blessed in like the design world, and that's why I majored in apparel management, like owning my own business. But I do try to choose like very simple pieces, almost think of it like a capsule wardrobe. I love turning simplicity into like, yeah, here are some examples. I love turning simplicity into like many different outfits. I think there's so much potential with like simple pieces like the one that you see on screen. You can style it in so many different ways, and that's what I love, and that's what I strive for every single collection that I release.
That's very good.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I noticed that you're your own model. Did you model before?
Yeah, I'm my own model. I do have some experience in the modeling world because I wanted to become a model when I was like when I was attending FIDM, but I obviously switched over my passion and now I'm a business owner. And it really helped because I know a lot of clothing brands, they have to hire models, but because I kind of have a gist of my angles and what looks good on camera, I get to do that. And I'm blessed because I don't have to pay for a model.
Terrific. Who does your collection attract?
I would say it attracts almost anyone who loves staying on budget, but with cute clothing. Like my biggest problem was when I was shopping is like, I would find something so cute at these retail stores. I don't know if it was because I was going to the wrong stores, but every store I went to, it'd be like, oh my God, I love this so much. And I checked the price tag and it'd be like $60 for like a thin, lightweight piece of clothing. And I was like, this is not it. So I wanted to create my brand around being affordable, but also having really good quality and also being able to stay on trend and on top of things. Because I don't know if you guys can connect with me, but I like having a lot of clothes, but I don't like spending like hundreds of dollars on each article because let's be honest, like we only wear it like once or twice and we move on to the next thing, you know? So for anyone who loves quality, trendy pieces for an affordable price, this is where it's at.
Terrific. How did you come up with the name?
Oh my God, this is so funny. So, FIDM made us since and when I was in apparel management, we every single class, I swear, made us make a business plan, right? And it took me really long. I was like, okay, what will attract customers? And it was so cheesy to me at first. I named it Eyes on Me because essentially I wanted to deliver the message like once you wear our clothes, like all eyes will be on you. But that name was already taken by someone else. So I changed to Eyes on You because my catch line is leave an impression everywhere you go, like eyes on you once you wear our clothes. So that's it. As simple as
Now,
that. Mhm.
when you're purchasing wholesale for your site,
Mhm.
are you aware of where they're being produced? Or is it more or less you're looking for a certain look?
I consider both. Uh, but I will be honest, it's more of like the aesthetics of my brand more than where it's produced because I know where a majority of the things are produced. It's either overseas or a lot of them are from LA. I try to source from LA too, but I do look at like the style and the trends of the season, the colors of the seasons more than the producing.
Well, I think you've done an amazing job in a short period of time. Congratulations. All
Much.
right, let's turn to Trinidad. We'll come back to you in a few minutes, Joanna. Trinidad, how are you?
Hi, Ronnie. I'm doing great. One moment here.
Okay, there you go. Now, Trinidad, for those who don't know, graduated in 2016 from the menswear prior to graduating from the Apparel Industry Program. So he did both majors back to back. I want to know, truly, when did you begin to develop your collection?
First quarter, Apparel Industry Management.
How do you
Actually, yeah, I mean,
profit?
you know, everything started there at FIDM for me. I mean, I was still on active duty while I was going there. For those who don't know, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. And when I was there, I was just looking at maybe working for a company. And honestly, Apparel Industry Management did touch on entrepreneurship and the business side. And little by little, it started to grow. And
So where are you, and now are you concerned about where it's made on your side?
yes. Yes, I am. I'm made in USA. Everything is made actually 3 miles from FIDM. And our denim we source from Vidalia, Louisiana. So I've been fighting the made in USA portion of it. Mainly, I focus on sustainability of people and have just really pursued that route. I am looking at with the sub brand to start importing, but I do at currently 100% is made in Los Angeles.
So what is your label, and then how did you choose it?
It's called Trinidad 3. Was actually chosen in a class with Mr. Walker. And I needed to come up with the brand. As you know, I was on active duty, so I needed something really quick. So I named it after myself. My grandfather is Trinidad 1, my father Trinidad 2. I'm the third, so I named it Trinidad 3. And Ronnie, you met Trinidad 4 when I graduated menswear.
Going along with this whole idea, I was noticing the initial pictures you just showed, you showed a wounded vet wearing your jeans. Tell me what this is about.
So that's a Marine who lost his leg in Afghanistan in 2010, has not been able to wear jeans because of his prosthetic. Every time he sits down, he has to release his leg. So I met him at an event in Oceanside, and he liked the collection I had, but expressed that he had problems wearing jeans. And so I invited him over to the factory. We went to lunch, and I just observed him and developed a pattern to help him out. Then what ended up happening is we showed before the shutdown over at Project in Las Vegas, and that jean won Best Showpiece 2020 through Rivet Magazine. And it was Seven for All Mankind, Diesel, G-Star, and Trinidad 3 that got awards. So that one jean that I made for a friend of mine really made some waves. And realistically, it just tells what we're about. And I found that purpose again when I was there at FIDM, when I was the president of the Student Veterans of America FIDM chapter. And that is really why I do this, is to power veterans and help veterans.
You hire a lot of veterans too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes. My managing partner is a Marine Corps veteran. Throughout the pop-ups that I was doing, I'd hire FIDM SVA veterans, and through the whole process, that's my mission. So again, I believe in sustainability of people, repurposing, and so that's what I'm doing, inspiring veterans and hiring them whenever I can.
All right, we have the Whiskey Hotel up. Tell us about the Whiskey Hotel, how that started and what it has meant. I hear it had to go on hiatus this year too, like the rest of us.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it was a crazy idea. I mean, as a designer, you wish you want to be in a store. So I had a crazy idea. So I built my own store. I actually shared it with Mr. Hoover first, and he thought it was pretty cool. And then he was shocked when I actually went out and got an Airstream trailer, and we gutted it and turned it into a men's store and barbershop. So just really wanted to create an environment and experience, and just dreamed while I was there at FIDM. I mean, that's the one chance you get to dream, and the dreams don't cost you a whole lot. So yeah, I just made a decision and went out and did it, and was hauling that shiny Twinkie around from Santa Barbara down to San Diego, Roseville Flea Market, you name it. And because of that, I was able to get our jeans and brand all across the world because of tourism. So we have jeans everywhere because of that.
So it helped launch a brand, an Airstream on a beach or in a parking lot in California. I love that. Trinidad,
Yep.
I always thought one of the most interesting venues that I had seen a student do, and you started this before you graduated, so I'm
Yep.
glad to see it's been success. Are you going to bring it back out when we are out of COVID, when we have COVID relief?
Yeah, that's the plan, except I got to polish it again. So, so if I find some time to polish, or maybe I'll get a couple veterans to come back out and help me polish, then we'll bring it out again. But the business model has changed from direct to consumer now to we have a wholesale business and a blend. So definitely the pop-up. So that's my passion. I love, being out there and boots on the ground. So that's where I learn, because I'm hearing people, I'm seeing what they're asking for, and I'm able to adjust.
Well, I've been in the Whiskey Hotel. I have sat in the barber chair. No, I did not have a haircut. But it was a unique experience, and that I know when you took it to Santa Barbara, you would have the barber come in and give haircuts and charge, and they would shop. It was a really unique thing. It got you a lot of press, did it not?
It did. It really made news everywhere we take it. It was an attraction, and really, like, a lot of people remember the experience. So, which I felt was the most important thing, is to provide an experience, and I was able to do that in the Whiskey Hotel.
Now, what about the fact that your Marine had to get you a lot of press also? Here's a Marine, retired from the Marine Corps, all of a sudden going into apparel, coming up with something, and then making jeans for adapted clothing for somebody who is disabled. How has that bode for you as far as getting you some notoriety?
Well, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Even if you tried, it's been quite a ride. I stick to my guns, and just recently there's an article in Rivet magazine about adaptive clothing, and it started off with Tommy Hilfiger and ended off with me. And it truly is an honor. We were featured in GI Jobs, a lot of publications, and during the pandemic, there were stories that were being released because we were one of the only crazy ones to release a collection in the middle of it. And so, yeah, it really helped to get the brand out there. And more importantly, it helped tell and show why I'm doing this, which I feel is the most important.
Lastly, before we leave you for a moment, I just lost my train of thought, sorry. your line you said was you started as D2C. For those that don't know what that means, direct to consumer. And now you said you're doing wholesale. Who are you selling to? What
So
stores?
I'm in 28 men's specialty stores across the country, and I sell to Nordstrom.
Oh, that's not a bad gig. How many stores in Nordstrom's are you in?
Right now, we're in their biggest store online. And then for fall, they're looking at about 10 to 12 stores. And for spring, which I have to show in about 30 days, they're looking at a bigger spread of the product, more doors. So, yeah, but I believe in crawl, walk, run, and I'm just treading lightly and want to make sure that I'm doing things right. And this is something that's for the long haul. But they do have plans for us through 2022, so I'm really excited about that.
So you are turning your passion into profit.
I am finally. Yeah, and when we were doing homework assignments in apparel industry management, we had to say where our product was being distributed, where we wanted to sell and everything. And I did part direct to consumer and the other part wholesale. And I specifically called out on several assignments Nordstrom. So to see that it actually happened is it's surreal, to be honest with you.
Terrific. Thank you, Trinidad. Let's go to Teddy.
Hey, Ronnie.
Hi, Teddy. Teddy Von Ransom graduated, I won't say when, let's just say it was in the first part of the 21st century. We'll let it go at that. But he's had an illustrious career. Give him a little bit of your background before we get into what you're doing now.
Well, I am proud to say that I graduated in 2002 from your program. I left Los Angeles shortly after and to assume a role with Ralph Lauren on the women's team. And I stayed at Ralph Lauren for, a little over 15 years, leading women's wear for the Blue Label and Polo brands. And in 2017, I decided to spread my wings and leave, the family that I grew up with at Ralph and become the creative director for the Fry Company. I helped them get an apparel line for men's and women off the ground. And just shy of 2 years, when that was completed, I was ready to start my own label. So I incorporated my LLC, Teddy Von Ransom, in 2018 and have never looked back.
You did so much at Ralph with women's wear, and then you did both men's and women's later on. What made you decide to go into menswear for your line?
Ronnie, the first thing I always say is, you can't design women's wear for over 15 years at Ralph Lauren without understanding menswear, because it was a derivative of menswear. And once I got my feet wet actually doing menswear for the Fry Company, I realized that I not only was really passionate about it, but I was really good at it. And I think that when it translated into my own label, it was just all the stars were aligning. I think it was easy to say when I started in the industry that women's wear was a little bit more exciting, a little bit more fashion forward. But as you launched the discussion earlier, men have caught on to fashion, and there are less and less rules. And I think my version of menswear is ripe for today's modern man.
Would you say your the sportswear that you're doing for men, it falls under the luxe category?
I would say it's contemporary luxury, yes.
The price points are interesting. Where are you selling, or where have you been selling in particular?
So when we launched, we had a direct-to-consumer model as well as a small wholesale footprint. We launched with exclusively with the Conservatory, New York City, as well as Dallas, and now San Francisco, Napa area. Brian Bolke, who started the Conservatory, might be a little bit more synonymous with his former brand 4510. He has a very conscious look at the apparel industry. It's a multi-branded store, and it's really a great opportunity for emerging brands as well as steadfast luxury brands. So it was a good fit. And now as we are starting to ascend out of the pandemic and the world's waking up, we definitely have a thoughtful wholesale strategy for the next year or two, making sure that we're positioned with the right brand partners that have the same aesthetic and formula that we do, as well as growing our own D2C, both online and with brick and mortar.
I have to say that's wonderful. Having you have won the Apparel Industry Management Student of the Year when you were here, you have done very well. I thank you for that. Continuing on a little bit, I was noticing your trend boards as they went through, the one for spring, summer, and the one for fall, winter. How do you translate the trends into actual silhouettes and garments?
You know, it's interesting because so much of my background was as a concept designer. It really fueled me to work at all levels of design and with all different design categories. To explain that a little bit further for someone that might not know the ingenues of a big corporation, but typically it's not unheard of for a big brand like Ralph Lauren, for example, to have classifications of design teams. So a section of designers that will work on tailored versus outerwear versus cut and sew knits versus sweaters. But as a conceptual designer, was coming up with the initial ideas and then helping each of those teams design. So I was really looking at the full lifestyle. So when I conceptually put together a group, it's super important for me to, it's just that. It's my concept, it's my mood. And because, for starters with my current brand, it's my name same, it's about me. And I've created already so many key styles and silhouettes that are early icons to the brand. I typically then start there and figure out how I'm going to animate those classic styles and then what layers of fashion I'll put on it. And for me, when I talk about animation, sometimes it's as simple as a new colorway or a new fabric. Other times it might be a new pattern, a totally different garment that really speaks to something that expresses the collection at hand.
I noticed from Women's Wear Daily, you were picked as one of the top 7 brands to watch, not menswear brands, one of the top 7 brands to watch. What did that do for you?
I mean, honestly, Ronnie, it was just another milestone that I'm super proud of for myself in the career, and certainly the brand. Stepping out of the September collection, I had a moment when I was looking at a room full of people that were working on our virtual show. And I all of a sudden knew that this brand had taken on a life of its own, and it was so much more than just me. So I'm super proud of these milestones. Getting in Women's Wear Daily and getting that attention and support truly means the world to me. It's part of the institution that I look up to, that I grew up looking up to, and it feels great. And I'm super proud of the people that were alongside me. I'm very passionate about American design and refueling the New York and LA community of American designers and craftspeople. And my story is just starting.
Which is a wonderful story. You did take a little longer road than the other 2, but you spent your time learning well, especially from the master. Anyway, because your name was so well known, is that the reason, being in the industry for so long, is that one of the reasons you went with Teddy Von Ransom as the name of the line?
Well, honestly, funny that you mentioned that, because you knew me as John Edward when I was at FidM, and quickly when I was at Ralph Lauren, Edward got dropped, and I was known actually in the industry as John Sublet. It was my birth name. I think probably I was flexing some independence when I came to Los Angeles and was starting my career really with you at FidM, and wanted to go professionally by John Sublet. And when I was thinking of the name of my personal brand, I had a nostalgia for my nickname Teddy that I grew up with and that people closest to me, including my husband, affectionately call me. And it was also really important for me to take my husband's last name, which is Von Ranson. And it felt right. And even though I had created such a name for myself within the community, having worked for Ralph as John Sublet for so long, it felt like also a line in the stand. And I was stepping into, I don't want to say a new persona, but it was just a new chapter in my life. And I love my chapter that I had for the first 15 years of my career, but this is definitely a new chapter that's all about the most authentic version of me. And Teddy really is the most authentic version of me. And I am super proud that I now have a family name with my husband. And honestly, it's a pretty cool last name, so.
Just real quick, how far in advance, you already have your styles for fall 21. When did you start actually creating your line for fall 21?
That's an interesting question. I think, honestly, a lot of designers have a lot of different answers. And I think especially in sort of the modern world, in the modern design community, there's a lot of different ways you can approach even when you show a collection. I have always been one of those planners, and I think it's for not having a lack of ideas. And I probably was already conceptualizing fall winter 22 when I was finishing fall winter 21, because I was putting that line to bed, and I was already seeing intuitively themes that I wanted to pick up on that I felt would be kind of screaming come fall winter 22. Now, that being said, this is the tricky part. So it's always part of the edit. So sometimes what happens, I'm finishing a collection and not everything makes it, but I like to think that I'm pretty, I don't want to use the word thrifty, but I definitely am a smart designer. And if I have a good style or sample that doesn't make the first line, I keep bringing it out and seeing where it'll fit in the next collection. But alongside that, I think in today's world, you got to be super, super nimble. So there can be an overarching sort of theme in the back of my head, but it always evolves. And sometimes when you think you're super planned, then you're kind of putting the final touches 6 months or a year out, and you're like, your mood is wanting something completely different. So it's just being able to have that sort of arsenal of designs and maybe samples in your back pocket. And the last fun thing that I will say is when I'm finishing up a collection, there's always that last thing that I see a bolt of fabric or something clicks, and I push my factory or my team to like execute really, really quickly, and it becomes the thing that everybody wants to talk about or becomes the hook for the line. It certainly was the neon jacket in my first collection. Gosh, I think it's the watercolor plaid in my like current spring collection that's out right now. These things have a way of becoming sort of like news and noteworthy. So always listen to your gut.
Terrific. All right, let's go get all together and let's start some panel questions for all of you. Joanna and Trina, do you want to join us, please? Everybody's voice is on. Here we go. I want to know what you enjoy the most about having your own business. And be honest, guys. Trinidad, you start.
Okay.
All right.
About my own business, I love that I get to do everything according to like my plan and my decisions. I don't have to like follow anyone else's rules because I'm juggling a 9 to 5 right now and my business. And it's just so different because with the 9 to 5, you're like glued onto your seat. You can only do one thing for like 8 hours. But whenever I'm focusing on my business, I get to do anything I want. And every day is so different for me. Like sometimes I'll be packaging orders or I'll be picking new styles, and like another day I'll do like customer service emails, and like it's just so different. I love that I don't know what to expect with my business. Like I love the spontaneity of it. With the 9 to 5, I always know what I'm gonna do, you know? So it's that. It's like it's always full of surprises and I'm in control of everything. And like with every success, I'm responsible for it. And it just feels that much better because even like that one order I get, I'm like, I did it because I worked hard. And yeah, I get to celebrate every success and like I get to take responsibility for everything. So that's like the most rewarding and fulfilling part of it.
Terrific. How about you, Trinidad?
For me, the most rewarding thing and what I really love about having my own business, especially in this creative world, is that I've been able to change and impact lives. And to me, that's incredible, right? It's what's most important. And I have amputees reaching out weekly, and also I get to feed my soul on the creative side. And I love sports. I love, love rock music, and I'm designing for professional athletes. Working on something with Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses and all that fun stuff that feeds my soul. At the same time, like what I'm able to do with the brand and inspire other veterans, because as you know, in the veteran community, or if you don't know, the suicide rate is really high. It's 22 a day. And I'm getting messages from veterans saying that what I'm doing is inspiring them to do something else with their life, like to live life. And that to me is tops. So
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Teddy, what was your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur? You came from a top executive position for many years. What made you decide to throw it all in and go here?
I think for me, and actually first I got to tell you, Joanna, Trinidad, super inspiring. I'm so glad to be sharing the panel with you guys. Coming at it from all different sort of walks of life, and also sort of years of experience. Already you've like opened up my mind, and really great to be with you guys. For me, gosh, you kind of hit a glass ceiling, at least I did. And I think probably if I go back to the year 2000 when I started at fidm, I always had the idea of having my own label and being an entrepreneur on the horizon. And I was really fortunate for a very long time. And I always sort of said to myself, or I definitely got caught up in the corporate wheel of like, this is great. I have amazing resources. I'm working with amazing talent every day. This is great. But I did hit a glass ceiling, and there was something in me that needed to come out. And there was a level of self-expression that I was never going to be able to fulfill until I was creating something for myself. So this brand is about myself and my take on, my vision on apparel and menswear. And I have a story to tell, and I want to express it now.
Do you find everybody, because I did in the business and still when I do the consulting, that no 2 days are alike?
No.
That actually makes it the most exciting business I can think of. Somebody used to say it was a movie business. There's too much standing around waiting for the next shoot. There's nothing like the apparel business to really fuel your passion, make you feel empowered. And I think that's also part of what we like about this area. Now, some of you are doing D2C, some of you are doing wholesale, and I think all of you are trying to do all three at this point. when you look 5 years down the road, where would you like to be with your lines?
Should
I
go
can
first?
hop into this one if you
Yeah,
want.
go ahead. Yeah, Teddy can go.
So I think that in the modern age for apparel and any element of the luxury market, really you should be focused on a D2C strategy. That's not to say that wholesale isn't play an integral role, but I think for me, I would like to see my D2C business capturing 70% or more of my overall picture. And again, you know, at least for my my company, wholesale should be a very integral part of the big picture. But I think for my business and my brand to sustain and get the footing that it needs to, it definitely needs to be that sort of a matrix.
Okay. Joanna, you want to take a stab at this?
Yeah, because my business is like a baby. What I see 5 years along the line, I'm not completely sure, but like what I see like within like a year or two, I really want my own office. I know for Teddy and Trinidad, you guys might already have an office of your own, but right now I'm like working out of my garage and my room. So having like an office space, I feel like I would be a lot more creative and be more inspired and more hardworking to get my work done. And also like Trinidad said, like not Trinidad, Teddy said, I do want to create my own things too. I want to break out of wholesale. And I think that's where my creativity would flow the most. If I'm able to like design my own clothing, produce it myself, I would be so much more passionate about that instead of buying wholesale. So definitely, I want to be able to like private label everything. Also, I want to be able to do something with my brand like that's actually impactful for the world. Right now, I don't know what cause to support. And a lot of times, like I always wonder, like, I know there's a purpose that I'm starting my brand and I want to be able to give back in a certain way. So I definitely want to figure that out along the way too. Just like Trinidad is doing it for the veterans, I want to be able to do it for a certain group of people and want to like make a contribution to them too.
Well, I'm going to tell you a secret on Teddy. 3 years ago, I visited him in his, at his house. His living room was his showroom. There was 6 racks of clothes all around the room from season to season to season. It was a wonderful thing to look at. But he now has a whole different setup. But that's something to think about. He was in the business a long time, and he still starts the same way as everybody else. So that's part of it. Trinidad, where are you going to go in 5 years?
Ooh, to the top. That's where I'm going. And what that looks like is, well, in apparel industry management, Ronnie, you told me, you know, and other professors, like I'm really creative, but what about the business side? You need a commercial product. And I went against the grain in the beginning and did all this creative work, made beautiful pieces, did sell some. Actually, one of them was bought by Pier Paolo, the creative director for Valentino, over at a store there on Abbot Kinney Boulevard. So I got a little street cred on that. Then he wore it to work. He shot the campaign with Kendall Jenner, and I saw my jacket that he had bought there. So that stuff was really cool, but it just wasn't enough volume. And Teddy, as you know, like once you get up to doing those price points, it's a huge marketing game. And I mean, I'm bootstrapping this thing. I mean, started with like, I was started there at FIDM, like a student with a tin can and was selling my homework. And so where I see myself now is like being a major player in menswear on the commercial side, top brand in Nordstrom, and a few others. And then from there, I would like to, you know, maybe I could work with you, Teddy, on something in the future when I level up.
I love that. Love that.
You know, and I have to say, you never give up on, you know, that one piece de resistance, even if it's, you only sell one piece. You just don't make it a large percent of your volume, but it sometimes helps set the tale, tell your story when you're launching your brand. I tell you, I can think a couple of your jackets in particular, like the plaid that you were talking about, that you did for spring, summer. Anyway, let's move on just a little bit. We all know that you always check out your competitors. You know, like it or not, we have to know what's going on out there. Who do you see as your major competitors at this point? Teddy, I'll start with you.
Ooh, tough question. Very political. You know, I think that this sort of plays into also who I even think my target demographic is, and I think that that's evolving and changing because, you know, we used to, you know, have a very studied approach to that target market that we were trying to capture, that market share, and I really believe now more than ever it's about behavioral practices and not just a single person. And I think that because I've gone for a broad lifestyle approach to my label, and because the consumer is now buying pieces one by one and they're not necessarily going after a full look, it means that my outerwear might be competitive with Montclair versus my knitwear might be competitive with Ala Nui. And so there's a lot of crossover that can happen. So typically when I work on these categories, outerwear and knitwear actually probably are two of my favorite, alongside tailoring. I always think of what I'm creating and I think of who's best in class. So if I was designing a down jacket and I'm not doing a down jacket right now, I certainly would say at my price points, Montclair is best in class. So what am I doing to my down jacket that's going to make it stand out and give it a reason to be identifiable as Teddy Von Ranson and give a reason for a customer that might have a tendency to go to a tried and true brand to come over and experience my my outerwear pieces. So I definitely think it's a class by class situation.
I think so too, in many cases. How about Trinidad? How about you?
Me? That's easy. AG, Page, Hudson, 34 Heritage. I mean, that's who I'm sharing space with, shelf space with. So, you know, I'm. What was that?
What makes yours better?
I'm made down the street. I went to fidm. I learned how to do things, and also my why, like why I do this. I think makes us very unique. And you know, I really paid attention as a student, and I asked a lot of questions. And hands down, I developed one of the best jeans here made in the U.S. So, you know, our product's been standing up, and you know, I'm focused on marketing through athletes, to athletes, guys with, you know, thighs and bigger butts. And, you know, it's working out, you know, I have a pair of jeans to wear. So, so yeah, that's what I'm going for. Yep.
My competitors will be like the Instagram boutiques. You know, like, I don't know if you guys know, but Princess Polly, Verge Girl, it's all the like Motel Rocks, it's all those Instagram boutiques. They don't have brick and mortar stores, they're all online only, and they cater towards like the same audience as I do too. But what makes my stores better is obviously the price. I check at their, I'm not gonna bash on any of those stores. I think they're doing great, but I look at their prices and I'm like, oh my God, like it's a little high for what they're selling. So obviously, if I want to stand out, I need to do something different. And obviously the same quality, I know that for a cheaper price. And also like I actually care about my customers. I know sometimes big companies, they kind of get lost and their customers just become a number. But in my case, because I'm still a small business and I focus on every single customer and I try to make each order like very unique. So I'll always like leave a little note thanking them and like really like showing my love to them. I think that's what's great about supporting a small business, because like you're really, when you purchase from a small business, it really impacts their lives. So yeah, it would be that.
I have to say I agree with you, because the hot trends right now are obviously any sustainable businesses, made in USA businesses, minority-owned businesses. All of that is seeing major growth, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Real quick, let's go back to apparel industry. For some of you, it's a longer way back than others, but let's talk about what you learned in apparel industry that you still use today that you find was a major benefit, or anybody that inspired you from the program.
I'll go ahead and start off. I got to tell you, Ronnie, you really did a great job in handpicking those professors, and each and every one of them impacted me and influenced me, in a way that I still use today. So from the calendars, the pattern making, the sewing, there's times I had to, in a pinch, and this Teddy, we got to get in there and sew those labels, or make an adjustment or something, so that's what a lot of Marines trip out on, that I know how to sew. But so that's a skill that, has carried over. And just, I sat in right when I graduated, I sat in on a fitting for a LA brand, and the factory owner just asked me if I could come in and help him out. And the fact that, like, right out the gates, I understood what they were talking about, and I had to, pretty much fake it till you make it because there was a, experienced designer and everything, but I really didn't have to fake anything because, I was prepared. So hopefully that answered your question.
All right, Teddy, anything?
Yeah, I was thinking about this afternoon, even when we were prepping, and honestly, as corny and cheesy as this may sound, Ronnie, you have left such a lasting impression in me. And I remember, and I hope you do too, my first day of orientation, coming into your office and sticking my hand out, and I just said, I'm here to work. I've done my undergrad already. But for me, every grade point means $. And you lit up, and you just encouraged me and pushed me the entire way. And, I think the program in and of itself, probably the classes and the foundation that I learned there is blurred a little bit now, that I've been out of off the campus for almost 20 years. But I think that all of it has left a lasting impression. And sometimes, as I shared with you earlier, when I think of the instructors, and because they came from the industry, a lot of the really fundamental things that I learned about were not textbook, and it required having been on the job in some capacity. We talked about Tad, who was the president of an apparel company, and again, sometimes his curriculum seemed to blur together, but I always think of his biggest mantra: do it now and don't wait. So and I think it shows my respect for you and what you brought to my career, that I've stayed in touch with you over these years, and there may have been some wide gaps, but I picked up the phone to check in, and here we are now.
Thank you for the wonderful compliment. I have to say, you just recall, I remember when you came in that room and you told me you had been you were from Toronto area and Canada, and you had been a model also. So, so there's two models here that have risen to new heights. Joanna, what about you? What do you remember? Because yours is not that far off.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. The two classes I remember the most would obviously, sewing, because our sewing classes were 6 hours long. At first I dreaded it so much. I was like, oh my God, 6 hours of being in class. I was like, what is this? But I learned so much from sewing. It wasn't even the sewing process. We learned so much vocabulary that I didn't even know. And like, I sometimes have to sew on my private labels too, and then I wouldn't have known how to do any of that if I didn't take sewing class. And also, like, I do have to like fix a few things here and there too, and that really comes in handy. And also like Photoshop, oh my goodness, Photoshop, I did not know a thing going into it. Like with Professor Chang's class, Kenneth Chang's class, trust me, like you should ask him. I was stressing every single day. I was like, I'm not gonna pass this class. I was like, professor, like I'm gonna get an F in this class. And I remember I was so stressed about it, but I ended up getting an A because he was such a great teacher. And I use a lot of my Photoshop skills that I learned like onto even now. Because in the beginning, when I didn't have a photographer, I would have to Photoshop everything, like change this, like delete this, like move this onto another page. And like I didn't know how to do any of that. And I'm so glad that I took that class to learn, because I wouldn't have been editing photos as well as I did in the beginning if I didn't have that class. And also like we learned a lot of I forgot the professor's name, but it was like the legal documents and the finances, how to like finance and how to mark up your prices, this and that, and like how to find your target audience and everything, and the legal documents that go behind starting a business. I took a lot of notes from that, and I still have the binder. I literally wrote down on the front of the folder, I was like, keep this for your future business. And I still look back at it, and I still have the textbooks. I don't really read the textbooks, but I do look back at my notes a lot for reference. So that comes in really handy.
Well, terrific. I have one last question because we're going to run out of time here, and I have about a million more I'd love to ask you. But I really want to get into how you market your products, in particular, your choice of social media and why, since that, especially during the pandemic, has been the easiest and the most direct way to reach your consumers. Anybody want to start? I don't care.
I can start. So
Okay.
I started obviously kind of when the pandemic ended, like January, when it was kind of getting over, but TikTok became like a huge thing. And at first I was like, TikTok, like 13-year-olds use that, right? But I underestimated it, and I use TikTok a lot for my brand now, and it's actually helped me grow a lot. That's like the best way to reach my target audience right now, because I would say the people I'm attracting, they're my age, like 22 to like, or like 18 to like 25, and those people are on TikTok. I use a lot of Instagram ads. I'm trying to learn Pinterest right now, because Pinterest is kind of like a hotspot for boutiques and like jewelry right now. So I'm trying to learn that, because I can get a lot of engagement and views on Pinterest. And Facebook is so hard. I tried learning Facebook. I couldn't do it. So Teddy and Trinidad, if you know, please let me know, because I remember I was running ads on Facebook, and I just ended up wasting like $500 because it did nothing for my store, but ad money was going out. But those three are like the main social media places I market on. And I go to flea markets like twice a month. I try to go every other week, and I'm actually going to the Rose Bowl one, and I'm so excited for that one, because I know that one's like really big, and I'm gonna attract like new customers. And I like genuinely love meeting my customers in person, because then I get to actually like interact with them and talk face to face. But social media, you can't really do that, and you can't get to know them on a different level. So I love going out to flea markets, and yeah, those are like my sources for marketing for now.
Trinidad?
And yeah, for me, Facebook marketing is really been the most efficient, because you're able to run ads and it goes on multiple platforms for the same amount of money. Whether you're running like an ad on Instagram, it only goes through either the story or the feed, where on Facebook it'll go on 10 to 15 different platforms with the same amount of money, and then you're able to target, do a lot targeted ads. And I've seen that like work for us tremendously, especially when we were trying to drive traffic to Nordstrom. And I mean, we're competing with those big names that I mentioned with the smaller budget. So when you're an entrepreneur, and you all know this, every penny counts, right? So everything has to like make an impact. And Facebook shot me an email. They do give like 20, 30 minutes consultation. I was very fortunate. The guy on the other line was a Navy veteran. So he spent an hour and 45 minutes with me, and he shared his screen, and he showed me exactly like how to do it. And then within that one weekend, I was able to send over 4,000 people to Nordstrom.com. And then Nordstrom started running ads, because everything is now built on algorithms and all this other weird stuff. So I'm not a social media major, but I figured it out. So if you need help there, got you.
Debbie, anything to add?
Yeah, it's just interesting all the different ways we approach marketing based on our product and our demographic. For me, I'm still in the brand equity collecting phase. So, given my markets that I'm selling to, it was super important for me to create high brand awareness. So there's obviously been a lot of investment in our lookbooks, our internal advertising, participating now in Fashion Week, as well as having a PR marketing team that has been helping to get us placements in editorial, on celebrity, et cetera. And that has been working amazing. We've had a very, very successful year in spite of the pandemic. And as far as brand awareness. So it's a different climb when you're faced with the markets that I'm emerging into. I also think that this is a strong arm of the wholesale partnership. And when I kind of go back always to this idea of having strategic partnerships for my brand in particular, it's as much about marketing as it is just overall visibility, because Scene Data says as much as we are emerging into a digital community, an e-commerce phase of retail, people need to still experience and touch and feel the product in order to have that confidence that they then can shop you digitally. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm very, very fortunate. I'm super thrilled with where we are from our marketing standpoint. I will say Facebook does not work for my brand. The demographic is slightly off for me. Instagram seems to be the biggest draw to gain attention. And I've actually just, I don't know if this is a fun fact, but I started using LinkedIn as a tool for sort of just grassroots marketing. And it's interesting because I feel like LinkedIn people have caught on to this. And LinkedIn for me too was always just I was just everything that I was putting on Instagram or my team was putting on Instagram, I was just sort of casually throwing on LinkedIn, and there wasn't that pressure for me to do it at the right time and check how many likes, and it almost makes it a more authentic platform for me to just get the brand awareness out. Plus, it's so many industry people that are looking at me on LinkedIn, and for me, it's as much as just people recognizing the name and getting comfortable with the brand and seeing what I'm doing, even if they're not active participants.
Well, I have to tell you guys, we just ran out of time. In fact, we're going a little overtime. I want to thank all three of you, Trinidad, Joanna, and Teddy. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking about being an entrepreneur in the apparel industry, too. Like I said, my favorite topics. For those of you that are in the audience that would like some more information about our program, because we have a 2-year program. If you already have a degree, you can do a 1-year program. We are hosting a series of information interviews next week on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. From 5 to 6, I am doing a Zoom, which you can have a one-on-one with myself or my department chair, and I can answer all your questions about the program, etc. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.